How to catch audience attention in a speech. I'm about to give you 10 ways that you can capture audience attention right away as you begin your speech. You ready? I think you are. Let's go. What's worse than a speaker coming to stage and not capturing the audience attention? I don't know what is. I mean, I've seen speakers come on stage, they thank 10,000 people and everything and talk about the weather and all this stuff before they get into their speech. You want to jump right into your speech. Hey, I'm guilty of it too, so this is a good reminder for me, but these are 10 actionable items you can take right away to capture their attention. Number 1, you can ask a question. And I'm not talking about like, hey, how are we today? Everybody hates that. Or, hey, anyone want to put up their hand and do something? No, nobody likes those types of questions. Maybe do a question that would inspire them or make them think or something. Some of the questions I like to ask would be an example of, what's the main reason you came to the conference this year? And then I'd let it sit, because people are like, oh, why is he asking me that? What are my thoughts? Or I like to sometimes say, who is the best speaker you've ever heard at this conference? Shout it out. And I'm telling you, it's funny. People yell it out. They'll remember their names. When you engage the audience that way by asking a question, they're with you right away. It's a really wonderful thing. Then you feel like you're a part of something really special, and they feel like they're engaged with you right away. So ask a question right when you come to stage to capture their attention. Number 2 would be audience involvement. Yeah, my best buddy. He's one of the greatest performers in the world. Jeff Savilico. I talk about him all the time. Go check out jeffsavilico.com. He does audience involvement better than anybody I know. Here's what he does. He literally comes out on stage and he goes, all right, I need somebody to help me out here. And then he gets 2 volunteers on stage to help him climb onto the world's tallest unicycle. He absolutely does not need their help, but he then slowly climbs like a praying mantis up their body, and it's the most awkward, hilarious thing you've ever seen. In fact, here's what I want you to do, if you will, because Jeff Savilico has just recently launched his dry bar comedy special where he does have that routine of him climbing on a unicycle on top of 2 men to get up to the top of the seat. I hope you'll go check that out. Just Google Jeff Savilico unicycle. You will laugh your head off. This is the perfect audience engagement piece. And now you're sitting there thinking, well, I don't ride a unicycle. I'm not going to have people come to stage. Well, what are some of the ways that you can engage with the audience? Let's keep talking about how we can do that. Number 3, I would say to look and be hilarious. Now, maybe you don't look exactly hilarious, but there are some people that do, like a guy like Tim Gard. If you haven't heard of Tim Gard, check out timgard.com. He actually is the big sweaty guy on the airplane, and it's one of the funniest comedian, humorist, motivational speakers I've ever seen. He just comes out and he has just a way of being funny. Now, there are ways of being funny through audience engagement that you can easily do, and Tim does this in a genius way. He walks on stage and he starts kind of poking fun about the experience he's had in the hotel already. Or he talks about the flyers that are at the table, or he'll talk about the way that the food was laid out earlier. He'll do things that are not insulting at all, but it's funny and it's interesting. It captures the audience attention right away. You can do the same by noticing all the things around you. Number 4 is you can begin with a story that everyone can relate to or is terrified of. For example, I could get on stage and I could say, hey, how many of you guys remember during the pandemic when you lost $1 million in one day? Anybody? I share that story when I talk about losing all of my work in one day for the entire year. That was a rough one, and everybody gets a laugh out of it, and then they're really leaning in like, really? You lost $1 million? And I say, yeah, let me tell you about losing all my events during the pandemic. It's fun to ask a question that people are terrified of, that they think, oh man, I'm glad that didn't happen to me. Number 5, you can play a game to begin and have prizes. My friend Rob Foray, one of the greatest MCs in the whole world, as a speaker, he comes to stage and he captivates the audience by doing prizes, games, game shows, you name it. He uses music. He might even show up with money in his pocket, but he's like, who wants this money? I need you guys to help me on stage. People are running to stage to help him out. Or he'll say, hey, I need somebody to help me get everyone's chairs turned. And then he gives them a prize for helping with capturing the audience attention. I have 5 more that I'm going to share with you. But before we do that, I also made another video about this very topic, but with other ideas that you need to check out. It's on this very channel. You have to type this exact title in: How to Connect with an Audience in a Speech. I want you to go check out that video because it will help you so much in other ways that I'm not going to talk about here today. So go check that out, and let's get the rest of the 5 that we have prepared for you now. Number 6, I love it when I've seen speakers come out and take a poll. Now, they're not like, making people fill out papers and things. Rather, they might just say something very simple like, hey everybody, I need everyone to please stand if you've been to this convention before. And then everyone stands up and he's like, okay, actually, sit down. Anyone that's not been to this convention before, please stand. And then they all give him a round of applause. Like just doing funny things like that. Or, hey, let's have everybody stand up. Okay, now we're gonna take a poll. Who traveled the furthest? And then everybody starts, if you traveled from 1,000 miles away or more, stay standing. And then, the audience, okay, 2,000 miles. And then they slowly, and then eventually you're like, where did you come from? India. Oh, wow. Then standing ovation for that guy from India, right? It's a very interesting thing. You can take a poll with audience engagement. Great way to captivate the audience. Number 7, there's a guy named Tom Peters that I saw years ago. He walked into the audience and started talking to them. I had never seen a keynoter do this, but I saw him about 20 years ago and he did this. His name is tompeters.com if you go to his website, a legend in the speaking world. Tom Peters came out on stage and he talked for about 5 minutes. It was a 2,000 person event in Las Vegas, and then he literally walked off the stage and he started talking to people in the audience. I had never seen anyone do that before. What he did do was he cued the video guy to make sure that he knew he was going to be coming off stage. So the production team didn't freak out. He went down into the audience. He had the cameraman over his shoulder. He talked to people one-on-one, asking them questions about their experience. It was epic. He used the microphone. He shared it with the people. Great way to capture attention. Number 8, how about greet the audience before you begin? I have a friend named Kirk Weisler. If you go to kirkweisler.com, you'll check him out. He's one of the great speakers I've ever seen, one of my dearest friends. Kirk Weisler does something really interesting. If he's the keynote speaker at 9 a.m., he actually greets the audience before he goes on stage. He'll go into the audience and he'll walk through the front few rows and just talk to everybody. He even sometimes will set up something else called story time for breakfast. So he'll set up a thing at 7 a.m. and he'll tell the client, hey, guess what? I'm going to do the 9 a.m. session, but I want to do a 7 a.m. breakfast option if everybody's willing to come and listen to a story. And so then they will put that in the program. What's interesting is it'll only be a few people in the front few rows that'll come and listen to Kirk do the story time at breakfast. Now what happens 2 hours later at 9 o'clock when he's introduced as a keynote speaker? The whole front row gives him a standing ovation. It's so genius because they're all his friends already. kirkweisler.com. Number 9 is you can start with a quote or say something that's way catchy. For example, people have done this for years. Martin Luther King, when he went into the best part of his speech, he started with, I have a dream. That's a great quote, right? Or Abraham Lincoln, 7 years ago. They're all kind of quotes that you could start with. I like to share a quote where I say that the promise of the leader is to guide the people they lead to discover and share their signature moves. And people go, huh. That allows me to then roll into it. It's a catchy, interesting, different type of a question or quote, something that I can share that all of a sudden they go, I want to listen to this guy. Number 10, you can share a personal story right from the get-go. This is a great way to capture the audience attention. I did this recently at an event in my hometown of Park City, Utah. You see, I was performing at a place called the Pendry Hotel, which I had never been there before. It had only been there for a couple of years, and it was cool to get invited to finally speak there. As I got up in front of 100 event planners that had come in from all over the country, they were looking at the destination to see if they should have more events there. I started with a personal story, and the reason that was interesting to them was because I said, hey everybody, it's so amazing to be here standing on this very spot. I actually used to live right here. I grew up in Park City, Utah, and everyone went, wow, because most people can't say they grew up in Park City. And then I said, and my actual house was right there before this development came in. We lived right there outside those doors. This was my front yard. And they were like, what? It would have been nice if I'd had some photos, but you didn't take pictures in the 80s of where your grass was. And so it was fascinating to watch the audience go, wow, that's a personal story. He lived right here on this spot. Now there's this hotel. Sharing that story really leaned them into the audience with me, captivated their attention. It was a cool thing. And you know what? When you captivate your audience's attention, they're going to love you all the more, whether you're sharing a personal story, doing something funny, engaging the audience, walking through the crowd. You choose which one it'll be. I would love if you would do this right now for me. I want you to subscribe to this channel, and I want you to go into the comments and commit right now. Make a promise to me and yourself. Commit which one of these 10 you're going to do at your next speech. And if you will, I will certainly respond to it in the comments. Thanks for joining me today. I'm excited for you to capture the attention of your audience.